KRFO radio interview, and very excited to bring in the voice of the Golden Gophers, Mike Grimm, with the Gopher road trip coming to Owatonna, coming up here very soon on Tuesday the 23rd. Mike, how are you?
Doing great, doing great. Looking forward to our usual visit down in Owatonna. I think it's one of just a couple of towns in the time I've been here. This will be my 12th year, and I think it's my 10th caravan, and I think Owatonna's been on it every year, maybe except one, and I think Rochester is the other. So you guys are in select company, and we always look forward to coming down and seeing everybody there.
Now, it's not just that we're on the freeway then, huh?
No, it's not. I think there's a lot of factors at work. One, obviously it's a big Gopher area, and people can come from that South Metro, between the South Metro from Rochester. And I think our friends at Federated also help a little bit. As you know, they're big Gopher backers, and I think that certainly helps stoke the fire in Owatonna.
Now, it is a little different this year in that it's going to be a morning visit. We're talking Tuesday, May 23rd, the Golden Gopher road trip at the Holiday Inn of Owatonna. Talk about the format a little bit and what the road trip is for folks that haven't had the pleasure to be out at it before.
Right, yeah, it's a way that the University of Minnesota Athletic Department can outreach, get out, and talk to folks out and about, really. I mean, outside the Twin Cities, those that drive for a couple of hours to come to a football game 3 or 4 times a year, and a basketball or hockey event or volleyball or what have you, when it becomes the Gophers off season and they try to take an opportunity to come out and visit. And in essence, the coaches each get to kind of chat about their programs. They get to make fun of each other. That's half the fun of it. There's autographs. Goldie will be there. And this is a really good trip, a really good leg, because Mark Coyle, the athletic director, who really started his job here last year at this time, his first day on the job was the first day of the road trip. So this kind of will mark his first anniversary, so to speak. He'll have some quick remarks and then turn it over to the coaches. New football coach P.J. Fleck, basketball coach Richard Pitino, and hockey coach Don Lucia. Those are the 3 headliners. And I've seen Lucia and Pitino in action. They're dynamite at these things. Lucia's really good at taking jabs at the other coaches. Pitino takes jabs at himself. That's always funny. And I have not seen Fleck in this kind of a setting other than a couple of times at different events here, but I can tell you this, when he's done talking, everyone will be ready to cheer for the maroon and gold, because he is a very excitable guy.
No need for coffee that morning if we're going to hear P.J. Fleck.
No, he's the human Red Bull, that's for sure.
Now, how does someone sign up for this? And there is no charge, correct?
Yeah, it's free. There will be food served, so that, hey, you already free meal, right? No one wants to turn down a free meal. But they do ask, the organizers ask that you get a reserved ticket. Even though it's free, you need to go to mygophersports.com. If you don't have an account, you'll have to register for one. It just takes your email. And it actually will run you through a checkout, but your balance will be 0. So don't be scared. It's not going to charge you, but you need to print those tickets out. That way you're guaranteed a spot. It also, by the night before, will give the folks that are planning the event a good final deal on how many people will come. So, I mean, you can come if you haven't signed up, but you run the risk of, 1, the place being full and being turned away, and 2, the peace of mind knowing that you'll have a spot when you show up if you have the ticket. So, you can do it right now. Go to mygophersports.com and reserve the number of tickets you want and come on out. And next Tuesday it is. It should be a ball. We always look forward to it.
So when you reference Mr. Mark Coyle, 1 year as athletics director with the University of Minnesota, what has that year been like for him? What's the state of Gopher athletics right now?
Well, I think I can say the last 3 months probably better than the first 7. Let's face it, his first day on the job was the day that this caravan started, and it also happened to be the day that the wrestling scandal kind of broke, so that wasn't a good way to start. He and Jay Robinson from Mark Coyle's first stint here as an associate AD were good friends. He ended up having to relieve the head coach of his duties, and a legend at that, because of all that mess. So that was not a great start. And then, of course, he was walking into the basketball situation where Richard Pitino had won 8 games, and people were seemingly wanting Coyle to potentially fire him. He didn't. I think we're all glad he didn't now. And now, not only that, a year later here he's handing out a contract extension by a year because of the good turnaround. And then the football thing, let's face it, that wasn't the best light that was shed upon the University of Minnesota either. So that first 7 months through the end of the year into early 2017 was a bit dicey. But I think the one thing Mark does is he has stabilized things inside the building. So I think much of what he has done probably hasn't been noticed by the general public, but it's a very important piece. People are on the same page inside the building. And then you factor in, hey, the football team did win the bowl game. First time in a long time they've done that. Basketball team got to the tournament. Baseball and softball are having great years, and I think things are heading in the right direction. And he looks out his window every day and sees this $160 million athletic facility being built, and that's going to be done here in about 8 months and open. And student athletes at the University of Minnesota will be able to take advantage. So a lot of exciting things, and I also think P.J. Fleck has been able to become part of the face of athletics, and that helps Mark Coyle, I think, because Fleck is an optimistic guy and a guy that has some substance to him.
What kind of feel are you getting from fans and supporters based on P.J. Fleck and his enthusiasm for the program and where the football team may be headed?
Well, I think by and large, particularly for the diehard fans, they're loving it because this guy is, he's bleeding maroon and gold. He is pouring his heart and soul into it, and I think that's great. And he has a plan. There are going to be some skeptics when a guy is as energetic as he is. And I'll be honest, I've been around him now, through spring ball, and I've gotten to know him a little bit. And the biggest question I'm asked from people who know who I am, like if I'm out somewhere and they, you do the Gophers? Well, what about P.J. Fleck? The biggest question is that guy like that all the time? Is he a phony? I mean, is this guy fraudulent? I mean, is he only like that when the cameras are on or only at practice? And the answer is no, he's always like that, which actually to me makes him the opposite of a phony. I mean, he is like that all the time. He would not be pouring as much effort. If he were just a phony collecting a paycheck with a shtick, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. I mean, he's requiring a lot of his players. He's demanding a lot. He's he's hitting the recruiting trail hard. They have they're in my 12 years, this is easily the furthest along at this point in the year they've been from a recruiting standpoint with the football program. So I'm excited. Now, look, at the end of the day, who knows? I mean, obviously, eventually you got to win games. The nice thing with him is he's proven he can turn a program. Although I don't think the Gophers needed turning around, but he can bounce it. get that next step. Will it happen this year? Don't know, but it's exciting to see some of the groundwork that he's laying with this. That's for sure. And I think hey, he coached in the Cotton Bowl from Western Michigan. That tells you something going on there that he knows what he's doing.
By the time we see the Gopher road trip in town on Tuesday, we'll know at least how things have started initially for the women's softball team, but certainly a strange state of affairs for the #1 ranked team in the country going into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how a committee could miss something so big. And it's big in this sense, like in the basketball tournament, which I think is a reference point for most people because that's the one bracket everybody or every sports fan follows. In the grand scheme of things, the Gophers, in essence, in this tournament are seeded, if it were like a basketball tournament, they would be a 5 seed, and they're the ranked #1 team in the country. That never happens in basketball. I think people with the Gophers RPI, because they got hit because the Big Ten wasn't that good this year, top to bottom, so the RPI wasn't as good. I think people thought if they'd get seeded anywhere between 6 and 10, they could live with that. If it was 6, 7, or 8, they'd host 2 weekends in a row. If it was, 9 through 16, they'd host this first weekend, most likely. Well, they would this first weekend, and then depending on the outcomes, could host the second weekend, but would not be guaranteed anything. Okay. Nobody figured, and it doesn't happen in basketball. This would be like a team that you figure would be a 1, 2, or 3 seed getting to be a 5 seed. That doesn't happen. It just doesn't. But on top of it, to make it even worse, in men's basketball, the difference between, let's say, you think you should be a 5 and you're a 7. Well, in essence, that means instead of going to play a neutral site game in Philadelphia, you're going to play a neutral site game in Kansas City, whoop-de-doo. In this case, the Gophers go from potentially and certainly thinking they deserved and should have been playing in front of their own fans, sleeping in their own beds with 2,500 people there this week, to now going into what most coaches think is the hardest place to win a game at Alabama. They'll have 4,000 people there, and you're the #1 team in the country thrown into that mix. And the committee, it's probably in my time covering brackets, whether it's hockey, basketball, men's, women's, baseball, softball, Division III, when I first got in the business, whatever it was, I've probably seen 200 of these brackets put out. This is the biggest, hey, call me a homer if you want, but this is, in my time, the biggest miscarriage of justice I've seen. Again, no one died. The Gophers are in. It's fine. It's not a tragedy. But in terms of just that scope, like, hey, how did this bracket turn out? It's the worst I've ever seen a committee put out.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. We'll see how that turns out. A final word then, another promotion about what's coming up on Tuesday here in Owatonna, an early start, 8 a.m. at the Holiday Inn for this Gopher road trip. And Mike, what can you say to invite people out?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. 8 o'clock, come out early. It's a breakfast event at the Holiday Inn, as you mentioned. We got Lucia, Patino, Fleck, Coyle. We also have wrestling coach Brandon Eggum, rowing coach Wendy Davis, gymnastics coaches Jenny Hansen and Mike Burns, the golf coach for the women, Michelle Redmond. We'll hear all about all of those programs. Goldie will be there, autographs. It'll be a ball, and we look forward to seeing everybody.
All right, mygophersports.com to get signed up for the free event, right?
You got it. That's it.
All right, Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday at the Holiday Inn, Mike.
Yeah, can't wait. Thank you.
All right, a special KRFO interview.